And the truth is, I ain't mad at him. I just don't trust him. Because the truth is, he would just be another kind of monster in another kind of way. He don't want things to change. He just want to be the one that's running it. See? Easiest thing to do is to take your enemy's feet and hold them to the fire for things you know that they won't admit.
Jaguar Wright just set the internet on fire with claims about what was allegedly left out of 50 Cent's Diddy documentary. And according to her, it's way darker than anything viewers saw on Netflix. She's calling out names, referencing unseen material, and openly questioning what 50's real intentions might be. None of this is confirmed, but the reaction online has been explosive. Let's be honest, you didn't click this video by accident. You clicked because you heard Jaguar Wright is speaking on what she believes was buried. While most people are debating what made it into Sean Combs' The Reckoning, Jaguar is focused on what she claims never made it to air, and why. According to her, this content wasn't removed because it was weak, but because it was too sensitive, too risky, and hit a little too close to home.
What goes on, like, when you were there?
Money
Right.
and sex.
Were you surprised that there were so many cameras in his houses?
No!
So let me ask you, when you hear that Cassie was told to hire male escorts to come in what they call freak-offs now,
Yeah.
is that something normal that happens in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Freak-offs.
Yeah. Everybody know that.
So here's what we're breaking down today. First, the footage Jaguar claims was never approved for release. Second, why certain powerful industry figures barely appear in the final cut. Third, what some people online believe 50 Cent could be aiming for with this rollout. And finally, the statements and supposed receipts Jaguar says she's now putting out publicly. This conversation goes way beyond one documentary. We're talking about long-standing industry rumors, power dynamics, and behind-the-scenes protection that many believe has existed for decades. And if the online reaction tells us anything, it's that there are people who would rather certain stories stay in the dark. So stay locked in, because before we even get into what Jaguar claims to have leaked, you need to understand what's been unfolding behind the scenes over the past few weeks. 50 Cent reportedly spent nearly 2 years developing this 4-part Netflix series. The project traces Diddy's story from his early years in Harlem, through the rise of bad boy entertainment, and into the recent legal controversies that have surrounded his name. This wasn't treated like a quick release. It was positioned as a full deep dive into one of hip-hop's most powerful figures. The scope was massive. The series presents what's described as rare behind-the-scenes material, including previously unseen moments of Diddy speaking with his legal team shortly before major legal developments. There are interviews with people said to be close to the situation, and discussions involving individuals connected to the case. That level of access is unusual, and it's a big reason the documentary immediately drew attention. But here's where things start getting complicated. Not everyone who was originally expected to appear actually made it into the final cut. Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, someone often described online as having deep insight, was removed entirely. Reports suggest the decision came after disagreements with director Alex Stapleton over payment and creative direction.
What I was asking for was crazy, and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about, you got footage, you got clothing, I was doing footage, I had pictures, all the stuff that I had, you could figure out a way to pay a brother and stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received, and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I'm like, yo, who do you think you're talking to?
And then there's Jaguar Wright. Her material wasn't just shortened, it was reportedly labeled too controversial for Netflix. That alone raised eyebrows, especially for a documentary built around serious allegations and industry power dynamics. So the question people keep asking is this: if this project was meant to be a full reckoning, why were so many voices left out? And are viewers really seeing the complete picture, or only what was considered safe enough to release? And this is exactly why this conversation keeps growing. Jaguar Wright didn't hold back at all. She publicly referred to the project as a mockumentary, not a real documentary, claiming it talks down to the audience instead of informing them.
Think about that. Look at what happened from that. See, and this is why this documentary is I'm not calling it a documentary. I'm calling it a mockumentary. That's what I call it.
No, that's Final Tech.
I call it a mockumentary. I feel like this whole thing is mocking me. That's how I feel. It's wild. But go ahead.
Was there anything at all that you were watching this documentary that was...
According to Jaguar, a large portion of what appears across the 4 episodes is information she says she's already shared publicly for years. At one point, she even said the project felt like it was mocking her directly. Now, some people might assume she's just upset about being left out, but Jaguar insists it goes deeper than that. She argues this isn't about ego or attention, but about what she believes is the truth being watered down to protect certain powerful figures in the industry. That's where things start raising eyebrows. Jaguar has pointed out that several major industry names barely appear, or don't appear at all, despite their long-standing proximity to the story. According to online discussions, these are individuals many believe were closely connected to key moments being discussed. She specifically calls out how Jay-Z is only briefly mentioned, with no real context or deeper exploration.
Why do you think Jay-Z wasn't involved in none of this?
Well, I mean, he was involved in a lot of it. You mean, why wasn't he mentioned?
Yeah, mentioned in the documentary at all.
I mean, there was a lot of people that weren't mentioned. Matter of fact, not too many people in the industry were mentioned who were there and present. Isn't that cute?
Very true.
They found a way to tell that story while they kept everybody else clean.
Then there's Stevie J, one of Diddy's longtime producers, who is largely absent from the narrative despite being publicly known as closely involved during that era. For Jaguar, that silence speaks volumes. And then comes the name she focuses on the most.
Because Stevie J was living at the Star Island house. Tell me something, how do you have all of that stuff about Little Rod and there's no Stevie J? Now, it was really interesting because there was some of the footage that Little Rod has shared with this documentary that he shared with nobody else that he did an interview with, and none of that made it into the trial. There's images of him with French Montana and the Diddler on the yacht.
Yeah.
But nothing of Stevie J, surgically removed.
Clive Davis. Jaguar has repeatedly stated that Clive held majority ownership in Bad Boy Records, yet in a 4-part series, his presence amounts to only a few brief moments. According to her, that imbalance doesn't add up. So once again, the question becomes, if this was meant to tell the full story, why do so many central figures barely appear? And is what viewers are seeing the complete truth, or just the version that was considered safe enough to release? When Jaguar Wright was asked who she personally considers the worst celebrity she's ever been around, she didn't hesitate. She named Clive Davis and used extremely harsh language to describe him. She went on to connect his name to several tragic moments in music history. To be absolutely clear, these are Jaguar's personal allegations and opinions, not proven facts. That said, what many people online find interesting is this: someone with that level of influence and surrounded by so much controversy and public discussions appears for only a few brief moments in a documentary that's framed around accountability. According to Jaguar, that isn't a coincidence. She argues that once you seriously examine Clive Davis, you're forced to look at the entire power structure behind Bad Boy Records, and that's a conversation some would rather avoid. Jaguar also strongly criticized how Kim Porter was handled in the documentary. Kim, the mother of Diddy's children, passed away in 2018, and her death has continued to raise questions among the public. Jaguar believes Kim should have been a central presence in the story, but instead, her voice was filtered through others, something Jaguar says felt wrong and incomplete. She points to one specific example, Kalina Harper, a former Bad Boy artist. After watching Kalina's interview, Jaguar described it as difficult to watch, not because she believes Kalina was being dishonest, but because she felt Kalina was holding back. According to Jaguar, there was a reason for that hesitation.
Kalina's testimony, she was probably the most pitiful witness they brought up to speak about all of this in the entire thing. Kalina?
Wait, why you say that? She was emotional. She was
Emotional? That's what you call it?
that's what I'm trying to call it.
Capricorn Clark was emotional. I'll give her emotional. I'm sitting there looking at someone, in my opinion, who appears to be struggling with a substance.
At the time of filming, Kalina was reportedly dealing with a serious custody situation involving her children. Jaguar claims that kind of legal pressure can make it nearly impossible for someone to speak freely on camera, knowing every word could potentially be used against them. And in situations like that, silence can become a form of survival. Jaguar then adds another layer to the story. She claims that Kalina's husband has close ties to Diddy's inner circle, someone Jaguar used slang to describe as being deeply connected. If that's true, it puts Kalina in a difficult position, tied into that world through marriage, dealing with legal pressure, and still being expected to speak freely on camera. According to Jaguar, that's not a fair setup for anyone. Jaguar also points out that Kalina was present during the same time period when Lil Rod was filming at the Star Island house, a location that has since been mentioned in multiple allegations online. Yet Kalina stated she didn't witness anything suspicious. At the same time, Stevie J, who has been publicly linked to that house during that era, doesn't appear in the documentary at all, not even a brief mention. According to Jaguar, that kind of omission isn't accidental. She believes it reflects deliberate editorial choices about who gets shown and who doesn't. This brings the conversation to Gene Deal, whose experience helps explain what may have happened behind the scenes. Gene Deal served as Diddy's bodyguard for years and has often described himself as being present for both business and personal moments. Gene says he was originally expected to be a major voice in the documentary and that 50 Cent personally contacted him about participating. However, Gene claims things changed after a phone call with director Alex Stapleton.
You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another, and I was like, yeah, all right, well then, F you. I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes out of this documentary.
According to Gene, the tone of that conversation made it clear that 50 Cent didn't have final control over what footage stayed in the project or how participants were compensated. Gene says that didn't sit right with him. He ultimately felt the financial offer didn't reflect the value of his first-hand experiences and chose to step away from the project. From his perspective, the terms simply didn't add up. Gene has also criticized what he sees as major gaps in the documentary's narrative. One example he's mentioned publicly is the death of Anthony Wolf Jones, a former bodyguard and associate of Diddy who was killed years ago. Gene argues that the production lacked the background and context needed to responsibly tell that story, which is why it was left out. But this is where Jaguar says the story goes even deeper. In her view, it was never about a lack of information. She argues that telling certain stories would raise too many uncomfortable questions, too many connections, and too many influential names that some people would rather not see discussed publicly. And according to Jaguar, this fits a much larger pattern. She points out that this isn't just about scenes being cut from a single documentary. She reminds people of the moment she appeared on a major television platform and made extremely strong statements about well-known industry figures. That clip spread rapidly online, and then, within a short period of time, it was taken down. The sudden removal raised questions across social media. Jaguar has suggested that the situation highlighted how much influence certain individuals or networks may have behind the scenes. Influence that can affect what content stays public and what quietly disappears. These are her interpretations, but they've fueled widespread discussion online. From Jaguar's perspective, that kind of pressure doesn't stop at talk shows. She argues it can extend to production companies, media platforms, and even major streaming services. In her view, stories aren't just shaped. Sometimes they're filtered, and she's been clear that she believes no platform is completely immune to that influence.
I know why there is no vindication for me. Because for 4 years, I've been screaming, not just Diddy, but Diddy and Jay-Z are monsters. And the victim-making machine kept going on.
Jaguar then brings up another claim that made people uneasy. She has alleged that there was footage involving Justin Bieber connected to the broader story that was filmed but never included in the documentary. To be clear, this is Jaguar's claim, and no evidence has been publicly confirmed. According to her, context matters. She alleges that at one point, Bieber's team worked to keep distance between him and certain industry figures, citing concerns about boundaries. She further claims that management situations later changed and that other well-known artists became more involved, relationships that Jaguar describes as complicated and long-standing. Again, these are Jaguar Wright's allegations and interpretations, not established facts, but they help explain why she believes so much material never made it into the final cut, and why she continues to question who really decides which stories get told and which ones get left out. Jaguar then raises one of her most sensitive claims. She has stated that during a certain period, Diddy was given temporary responsibility for Justin Bieber for a short time, while Bieber was still a teenager. Jaguar has been very clear that she does not claim to know all the details, and she does not allege that any crime took place. Instead, she frames it as a question of judgment and decision-making.
Trying to get to Bieber for a minute, and his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that. He had already been to the hospital. That situation that Gene was talking about. And you still took Bieber there, but you got custody of him first.
According to Jaguar, this moment stands out because Bieber was publicly known to be dealing with personal and health-related struggles around that time. From her perspective, it's not an accusation. It's a situation she believes deserves honest discussion rather than silence. Jaguar also says that Gene Deal has referenced this same general timeline in past interviews. Again, she emphasizes that her point is not to accuse, but to ask whether situations like this truly represented protection or if they raise questions that were never properly addressed. According to Jaguar, she believes there was footage touching on these topics that was filmed but ultimately removed from the documentary. She claims that several high-profile names were kept out of deeper discussion, possibly due to legal considerations or behind-the-scenes agreements. These remain her claims, but what stands out to her is that none of this was addressed at all. And from her perspective, that omission matters. Including material like that would have opened an entirely new line of uncomfortable questions.
Was new information to you?
New?
Yes.
No.
From the history of Puff, him coming up, anything new?
No, there was nothing new for me. There was nothing new for me. The only thing that was new was what was coming forward that had never come forward before. Kirk Burroughs finally admitting out loud that he had been essayed by Diddy.
About who knew what, who chose to stay quiet, and who may have benefited from that silence. This is where Jaguar says her real frustration comes in. She does not believe this documentary was created out of moral duty or a desire to bring full transparency. In her view, it was about positioning and influence within the industry. Jaguar has openly claimed that she believes certain powerful figures are being challenged not to change the system, but to take control of it. She argues that removing rivals doesn't automatically mean accountability. It can simply mean a shift in who holds power. These are strong opinions, and they are Jaguar Wright's own, but they help explain why she has been so vocal about what she believes was left out. Jaguar then takes her argument even further. She says that replacing one gatekeeper with another doesn't fix the problem. It just creates a new version of it. In her words, it's the same system, just a different face. Harsh? Absolutely. But Jaguar argues that given the industry's history, people should at least question the motives behind who ends up in control. She points to the long, very public history between 50 Cent and Diddy. Years of tension, jokes, trolling, and open shots traded back and forth. So when 50 suddenly appears at the center of a project framed around truth and accountability, Jaguar says she isn't convinced. From her perspective, the shift doesn't feel organic, and she's not afraid to say that out loud. But she doesn't stop there. Jaguar goes a step further and issues what she describes as a warning. She claims she's prepared to speak publicly about alleged environmental issues connected to property linked to 50 Cent in Shreveport. To be clear, these are Jaguar's allegations, not established facts, and no official findings have been confirmed. According to Jaguar, she believes she has information and says her message was straightforward, that the local community deserves to be treated fairly. With that statement, the situation moved from commentary to something much more personal in her eyes. Jaguar also used sharp language to suggest that, in her view, no one involved is completely free of controversy. She implied that just because attention is focused on one figure, it doesn't mean others don't have their own issues they'd rather keep out of the spotlight. That's where her frustration clearly spills over. And here's why Jaguar says she's so heated, and why some people are only now starting to listen. She's been speaking about Diddy and the industry for years, long before documentaries, lawsuits, or constant headlines. When asked about what she witnessed at industry events and parties, she says she never tried to soften her perspective or clean up her language. Jaguar has openly described what she believes is an industry culture driven by money, control, and excess. So when reports later surfaced about surveillance cameras inside Diddy's properties, she said she wasn't surprised at all. And when public allegations emerged involving Cassie and claims about pressure and coercion, Jaguar said she had already been warning people for years. She's made that point repeatedly, across podcasts, interviews, and social media. And for a long time, she says she wasn't taken seriously. She was dismissed, labeled unstable, accused of chasing attention, or written off as a bitter former artist holding a grudge. But now, after legal outcomes and major public fallout, Jaguar says the reaction feels different. Suddenly, people are acting shocked, like none of this was ever hinted at before. Jaguar calls that reaction fake surprise. In her view, the signs were always there. People just chose not to see them. She has even stated publicly that many behaviors being discussed now were widely known within certain circles. That is her claim, based on her own experiences, not a statement of fact. And that leads to the question she keeps asking, why this moment, and why this person? Jaguar's answer is blunt. She believes it's because, right now, Diddy is the figure the industry finds easiest to turn on. She compares it to other moments in music history, where one individual became the focal point while broader systems remained untouched. From her perspective, it's less about justice and more about managing public perception. According to Jaguar, this pattern isn't accidental. She argues that the industry decides when to act, who to expose, and who to protect, all to preserve the larger machine. These are her opinions, but they've resonated with some people who feel the conversation is long overdue. She then made one of her most provocative statements yet, claiming she believes other major figures will eventually face similar scrutiny. She specifically named Jay-Z, saying she thinks more conversations are coming. To be clear, this is Jaguar Wright's personal belief, not a verified claim or prediction. In her words, she's no longer holding back. Whether people agree with her or not, that mindset explains why she continues to speak out and why this conversation refuses to die down. So where does that leave things right now? What happens when someone like Jaguar decides to take everything public? According to her, this is only the beginning. She claims more names, more footage, and more statements could still surface, material she believes never made it into Netflix's version of events. Jaguar says she's tired of watching powerful people protect each other while other voices get sidelined. And history shows that once one person speaks up, others often feel emboldened to follow. That's usually how long-standing walls start to crack. Yes, the Netflix documentary is dominating the conversation right now. People are talking about it everywhere. But Jaguar wants viewers to understand one thing. In her opinion, what the public has seen so far is only the surface. She believes the real reckoning hasn't even begun. She points to the same unanswered questions. Why were so many key figures barely present, or missing entirely? Why were some names only mentioned in passing despite years of proximity? Why was certain footage allegedly left out altogether? And why does Jaguar believe this project may have been driven by motives that go beyond accountability? Those are Jaguar Wright's questions, not conclusions, but they're the questions she insists people should be asking. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Jaguar is raising valid points, or do you feel she's going too far? Do you believe this documentary was made for the right reasons, or do you think there's more behind it? If this breakdown brought you value, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the MicTrip channel, and share it with someone who's been following this story. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them, and your perspective matters. We'll be keeping a close eye on how this unfolds. See you in the next one.